Most people think weakness is a feeling. It's not. Weakness is a habit, and you've been practicing it every single day without realizing it. You hit snooze. You avoid the hard conversation. You scroll for 40 minutes because the silence of your own mind makes you uncomfortable. None of that feels dramatic. None of it looks like collapse. But brick by brick, you're building a prison, and you're the architect. The Stoics figured this out over 2,000 years ago, in an era with no Wi-Fi, no life coaches, and no option to take a mental health break from a conquering army or a plague that killed 1 in 4 people. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire while managing chronic illness. Epictetus philosophized his way through literal slavery. Seneca wrote some of history's sharpest wisdom while knowing the emperor could order his death any Tuesday. These weren't men who read about adversity. They lived inside it, and they came out sharper, not softer. What they left behind isn't a self-help checklist, it's a demolition manual. 7 rules designed to tear down the version of you that keeps losing and rebuild something that doesn't flinch. Stay through all 7. The last one is the one most people aren't ready for, but it's the one that changes everything. Rule 1. Stop negotiating with your own excuses. Marcus Aurelius had a ritual. Every morning before dawn, before the generals and the senators and the sycophants arrived with their problems, he sat alone and wrote one sentence: "What am I avoiding today?" Not "what are my goals?" Not "what's my morning routine?" What am I avoiding? That one question is a scalpel. Because excuses don't feel like lies, they feel like logic. I'll start when things calm down. I'm not ready yet. The timing isn't right. Your brain packages avoidance in the language of reason, and you accept the delivery without checking what's inside the box. The Stoic move is to name the excuse out loud, actually say it, and then ask, would I accept this reasoning from someone I respected? If your best friend told you they couldn't chase their dream because the timing wasn't right, you'd call it what it is. You'd say, that's fear talking. Do yourself the same favor. The negotiation ends when you realize excuses are just fears wearing business casual. And here's the thing, once you stop negotiating with your excuses, you get face to face with something far more interesting, the actual obstacle. Which brings us to something the Stoics understood that most modern people have completely backwards. Rule 2. The obstacle isn't in your way, it is the way. There's a story about a Stoic general who, upon being told that his army was surrounded on all sides by the enemy, smiled and said, "Good, now we can attack in any direction." This isn't bravado, it's a trained cognitive reflex, what the Stoics called amor fati, the love of fate. Not tolerance, not grit your teeth acceptance. Love, as in whatever happens, I'm going to use it. Modern culture treats obstacles like bugs in the code, things to root around, minimize or complain about on social media. The Stoics treated them like resistance training. You don't get stronger by lifting air. The weight is the point. Every time you lose a job, get rejected, fail publicly, or watch a plan collapse, that's the gymnasium, not the disaster. The question isn't, why is this happening to me? The question is, what does this teach me that comfort never could? Ryan Holiday popularized this idea, but the Stoics lived it first. They weren't optimists pretending the hard thing wasn't hard. They were engineers who understood that pressure doesn't destroy iron, it forges it. Apply this rule wrong, and it becomes toxic positivity. Apply it right, and it becomes the most powerful upgrade your mind has ever installed. But to install it properly, you need Rule 3, because without this next piece, you'll use obstacles as fuel for the wrong engine. Rule 3. Know exactly what you control, and be ruthless about the rest. Epictetus called it the dichotomy of control, and it sounds simple until you try to actually live it. Here it is raw. Some things are yours, some things aren't. Your thoughts, your responses, your effort, yours, everything else, other people's opinions, outcomes, weather, markets, traffic, whether someone texts you back, not yours. Sounds obvious. Now ask yourself, how many hours this week did you spend emotionally invested in something you have zero control over? The Stoics weren't telling you to become emotionally numb or indifferent. They were telling you to become surgically precise about where your energy goes. A distracted army loses. A focused one, even outnumbered, often wins. Your attention is your army. Here's the original analogy you won't find in any self-help book. Your energy is a finite currency, and anxiety is the pickpocket. Every time you spend emotional capital on something outside your control, anxiety has already lifted your wallet and you haven't noticed yet. The Stoics weren't chill by nature, they were chill by design, because they'd built a fence around what mattered. This rule alone, if practiced for 30 days, will restructure your nervous system. But there's a specific trap most people fall into when they start applying this, and Rule 4 is the antidote. Rule 4, don't just endure. Perform. Here's where a lot of people get Stoicism wrong. They hear control your emotions and they become emotional flatliners. They endure hardship wearing a mask of calm. They white-knuckle through difficulty and call it philosophy. That's not Stoicism. That's suppression with a Latin name. The Stoics weren't performing detachment. They were fully engaged with life. Seneca wrote letters overflowing with warmth, humor, and passion. Marcus Aurelius wept publicly for lost friends and mentors. Cato, the most hardcore Stoic of his era, was known for laughing loudly and drinking deeply with people he loved. The distinction is this: Stoic strength is not the absence of feeling, it's the presence of agency within feeling. You can be furious and still choose your response. You can be heartbroken and still show up. You can be terrified and still walk through the door. Think of it like a jazz musician in the middle of an improvisation. The chaos of the moment doesn't freeze them, it's the raw material they play with. That's the Stoics' relationship with difficulty. Not I won't feel this, but I won't be controlled by this. The performer mindset will carry you far, but performance means nothing without an audience, and the most important audience in your life is the one Rule 5 is about. Rule 5. Who you become in private is who you actually are. There's a concept in architecture called a reveal, a deliberate gap or shadow built into a structure that you only notice when the light hits a certain angle. It reveals the quality of the craftsmanship underneath the surface. Your private life is your reveal. The Stoics obsessed over this. Marcus Aurelius wrote the Meditations as a private journal, never intended for publication. He wasn't performing virtue for an audience, he was auditing himself. Every entry was a question: am I actually the person I claim to be when no one is watching? Most people live their virtues publicly and abandon them privately. They're patient at work and brutal at home. They preach discipline on Instagram and collapse the moment no one's looking. The Stoics called this vice dressed as virtue, and they considered it more dangerous than open weakness because it prevents the honest self-reckoning that actual change requires. Decide that the private version of you is the real one. Not who you are when you're being evaluated, but who you are when you're alone, tired, and no one will ever know. That person that's either your foundation or your leak. There's no third option. Build the private version. The public version will take care of itself. And once you've cleaned that up, Rule 6 will hit you like a lightning bolt. Rule 6. Voluntary discomfort is the tuition fee for strength. Seneca had a practice he called melethanaituka, the rehearsal of hardship. Once a month he would voluntarily eat the cheapest food available, wear rough clothing, and sleep without comfort. Not because he was broke, because he wanted to train his nervous system to know, I can survive this. Modern neuroscience has a name for what Seneca was doing: stress inoculation. You expose yourself to controlled doses of hardship so that uncontrolled hardship doesn't break your baseline. The cold shower you keep delaying, the difficult conversation you keep rescheduling, the workout you negotiate down to something comfortable. Every time you choose the easier path, you're not conserving energy, you're billing your future self for the weakness you're building today. Voluntary discomfort is not self-punishment, it's the opposite. It's an investment in your own range. It's telling your nervous system, the worst-case scenario is survivable, and I've already rehearsed it. There's a specific kind of freedom on the other side of that practice, not comfort, but fearlessness. And that fearlessness is what makes Rule 7 not just possible, but inevitable. Rule 7. Memento mori, remember you will die and live accordingly. This is the one people want to skip. Don't. The Stoics kept skulls on their desks. Generals returning from triumph had a servant whisper in their ear, remember that you are mortal, not to be grim, to be awake. There's a peculiar thing that happens when you genuinely reckon with your own mortality. The petty stuff stops mattering at the exact speed you stop pretending you have unlimited time, the grudge you're holding, the dream you're going to start next year, the version of yourself you keep promising you'll become when the conditions are right. The conditions will never be right, the time will never be perfect, and one day, with no announcement, no warning, no do-over, the clock stops. The Stoics didn't use this to spiral into nihilism, they used it as a filter. Ask yourself before spending your afternoon, your energy, your attention, if I knew this was one of my last weeks, would I spend it this way? You don't have to live in crisis mode, you just have to stop sleepwalking. Memento mori isn't a warning, it's a permission slip to take your one life seriously, starting right now, not after the next milestone, the next Monday, the next version of yourself that's still stuck in the waiting room. 7 rules. No fluff, no filler, no pretending any of this is easy. Weakness doesn't leave because you read about philosophy, it leaves because you practice it, imperfectly, every single day, until the new behavior becomes the default. The Stoics didn't promise you happiness, they promised you something better, capability. The kind of person who can handle what comes, use what hurts, and keep building regardless of conditions. You started this video as one version of yourself. You don't have to leave it the same way. If this hit different, drop a comment with the one rule that landed hardest for you, not for the algorithm, because writing it down makes it real, and if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Not because they asked for it, because real ones don't wait to be asked. Subscribe if you want more of this. We don't do motivational fluff here, we do the hard stuff delivered sharp.